next lecture with you. That is of course the next topic, that is electromagnetic induction. The name is not new with you. You have already heard of this name number of times. The short form in brief you can write simply as EMI, that is electromagnetic induction. Like we have done in the previous chapter, that we are able to have, if we are having the magnetic electric current is flowing through a circle, then what happens? It is behaving like a magnet. Now what is observed, that we are able to produce the electric current if we move the magnet, means other way out. Earlier what we were doing, we were making the electric current to pass through a circular loop, and we showed it that it behaves like a magnet. Now what it is, that I am able to produce electric current by varying the magnetic fields. It means by varying magnetic fields, electric current is produced, and this phenomenon of producing the electric current, which is generated by the varying magnetic field, is termed as electromagnetic induction. So the definition should be clear with all of you. That is the phenomenon in which electric current is generated by cause of varying magnetic fields. Now what it is, that this of course, if you go with the history of the things, then Michael Faraday, he only did the discovery, and of course it was further supported by Maxwell. He proved all these things mathematically correct. So we have to go in detail of the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, or we can say simply magnetic induction, because we are able to produce the electric current by changing the magnetic fields. So that phenomenon we are calling it as electromagnetic induction. So before we go into electromagnetic induction, simply to revise, magnetic flux. Magnetic flux is simply like electric flux we have discussed. We are talking about the magnetic field lines which are crossing perpendicularly to the given surface. So if we want to write it mathematically, we can say product of the area of the surface and component of the magnetic field normal to the surface. If this is the surface, I have to take the n vector, which is known as area vector. Area vector, if I write A, then A is the magnitude and the direction is always perpendicular, normal, it is taken as outwards. So if I want to write magnetic flux through a given plane area A placed in the magnetic field B, then it is given by the dot product of the magnetic field and the area vector. So if I write the magnitude of the magnetic flux, that is given by BA cos theta, because you know dot product of two vectors, the value you write magnitude of both the vectors and product of the cosine of the angle between them. So if theta is angle between the area vector is always perpendicular, and what is the direction of the B vector, that is to be seen. So direction of between the n cap and B vector, I can say to be more appropriate, or you write A vector equals to A magnitude into A cap. A cap will give the direction of the area vector. So of course, your magnetic flux, that can be positive, can be zero, that can be negative, depending on the angle theta. If theta is positive, it means it is lying between 0 and 90 degree, or even if it is lying between 270 to 360 degree, then we get magnetic flux as positive flux. But if theta is 90, then cos 90 will be 0. Then we will be having this, it means this theta, of course you should be knowing that if I am having any surface, then area vector is always perpendicular to it. And if B vector is also perpendicular to this plane, then theta will be 0. So if B vector is in the plane and your area vector is always taken perpendicular, no problem in that. So then theta will be equals to 90 degree. So when theta is 90, then you will be saying that flux is 0. And if theta is lying between 90 and 270, then flux can have the negative value. So flux is maximum, it means when theta is 0. It means direction of the magnetic field and the area vector is same. It means your B vector is perpendicular to the given surface, then flux will be having the maximum value, and that will be given by the product of the magnitudes of the magnetic field and the area vector. So this should be clear because we have to use this term magnetic flux number of times. So this term should be very clearly set in your mind. Of course, you should be knowing that how can I change the magnetic flux? Simply by changing the strength of the magnetic field, or by changing the area of cross-section, or by changing the orientation. It means by changing the angle between the B and A vector, or if any two we are using, then also your magnetic flux will get changed. It is a scalar quantity. Units, if you want to write the unit of magnetic flux, that is Weber or Tesla meter square. If we talk about the CGS unit of magnetic flux, that is 1 Maxwell, after the name of the scientist only. And 1 Maxwell, it is equals to 10 raised to the power minus 8 Weber. That is mathematically, you can always prove the things. But you can keep this value in your mind for the numerical purpose. You can use this value directly. If we're talking about magnetic flux per unit area, at times if we use this term magnetic flux per unit area, that is termed as magnetic flux density. Or we can call it the strength of the magnetic field or magnetic induction B, because you can see from here that if I divide phi by area, then I'm left with B only, that is the magnetic field strength, or we call it as magnetic induction also, meaning is same. So this all information is very important for your questions. Here at this time you have to simply understand the things, what is happening. So of course with the experiment the things are more clear, that is true. For that you can see from the online labs are there. Observe these things, you can always go over there and you can observe the things. So these were the experiments which were done by the scientists Faraday and Henry. So 3 experiments were actually done. So we are taking it one by one. So what is the first experiment is that this is a bar magnet was taken and a solenoid, that is simply showing you the turns of the coil in solenoid which are connected with a galvanometer. So the solenoid is connected with the galvanometer and bar magnet is there which is made to move. When I am moving the bar magnet inside the coil, then what is happening? Then it was seen the deflection in the galvanometer was observed. Similarly, when we moved the magnet away, then also the deflection is seen in the galvanometer, but in the reverse direction, I can say, in the changed direction. If firstly it was moving left hand side, then it starts moving right hand side, or vice versa. So the deflection was further changed if I started this north pole bringing inside the solenoid. I'm moving the magnet inside the solenoid, and by that the deflection is being observed in the galvanometer. So what it means? It means if what I'm doing by moving the magnet, I'm simply changing the magnetic field lines here in the solenoid, and by changing the magnetic field lines means I'm changing the magnetic flux, and if I'm changing the magnetic flux, that is bringing the deflection in the galvanometer. So it means current is produced. That current which is produced is termed as induced current. Because of the why induced current is produced, it means there is some potential difference is created, then only the current will be produced. So these were the observations, and conclusions were further drawn that it must be creating some potential difference, or some force is there acting which is bringing some work is being done, or something like that you can say. And basically, if I kept this magnet stationary, then galvanometer showed no deflection. It only showed the deflection when this bar magnet was allowed to move. It means if the flux is changing, then only the current is produced, and when it is kept stationary, then no current is produced. So these were the various observations and conclusions which were drawn from the first experiment, that I am having the solenoid fixed, I am moving the bar magnet, and when I am moving towards solenoid, one side deflection, when it is I am moving it away, then the another side deflection. If I change the pole, again the direction of the deflection gets changed. If I keep it stationary, then there is no deflection in the galvanometer. Beta, you are supposed to, you can be asked with what was the experimental setup for the various experiments, what was the experiment done, and what were the observations and conclusions. So you should be able to point out all the things if it is asked from you during the exam. Second experiment, what he did, of course the experiments are performed by Faraday and Henry, as I have said earlier. So what he did for the second experiment arrangement was that in place of taking the bar magnet, as we have done magnetic effects of current, that I know if I make the current to pass through a circular loop, then it behaves like a magnet. So he did the same thing. Now he took two solenoids. One is this solenoid C1, another solenoid C2 was taken, and C2 solenoid is connected with a battery. So when it is connected with the battery, it means when I switch it on, then the current will flow through this solenoid, and when it flows through the solenoid behaves like a bar magnet. So this is behaving like a bar magnet, and this whole arrangement was kept on a car on wheels, I can say on a platform with wheels. It means here you can show that wheels can be there, or simply you can mention it in the experiment that this arrangement was kept on a platform or on wheels so that it can be moved either towards the C1 or away from C1. So this C1 arrangement is similar to the previous experiment, means we connected it with the galvanometer. Simply, you all know galvanometer is a device to measure the feeble current. So even if the small current is flowing, that will be detected by the galvanometer. So now what was done? This current carrying coil was allowed to move towards C1 solenoid. Then what happened? Then again the same observation as in experiment 1 was observed, means galvanometer again showed the deflection, and this deflection was reversed when this was taken away. Again, but when it is kept stationary, Cu2 is kept stationary, then no deflection was seen in the galvanometer. It means this deflection only occurs if I bring the movement in this coil, or I bring the movement in the bar magnet. That was the observation, and conclusion is that if there is change in the magnetic flux, then only the induced EMF and hence the induced current is produced. So this is to be moved, and when it is moved towards, and further if I change the polarities of this battery, then the direction of the deflection also changes. So it means, because you know when I change the direction of the current, then its polarities of solenoid will get changed. We all have discussed that solenoid is behaving like a bar magnet, and that you need to have in your mind so as to conclude, because you can be given in various arrangements in which you have to decide what will happen if I move it towards, what will happen when I move it away. So this was simply experiment done, and the conclusion is that only induced EMF and hence the induced current is produced whenever there is change in magnetic flux, whether I have to write for experiment 1 or experiment 2. Third experiment was done again this arrangement was kept the same, but now a difference was that this was not kept on wheels, but a tapping key is introduced. Tapping key is just like a pressing key, that when I press the key, it connects the circuit, and when I release, one key you have used in like in resistance box by screw motion. This is not that key. Tapping key is a different key in which two conducting plates are there and they are allowed to make contact like this. They are connected, and if I am releasing the thumb from here, then it will go away, means the contact will be lost. So simply by tapping key, we call it as the pressing key also. That is simply by pressing. Simply by pressing, it gets connected because both conducting coils are there here, conducting material, and when they come in contact, then circuit current will start flowing. When I release this contact, then it will lost. So that pressing key or tapping key, you can see, was introduced in the circuit, that in place of keeping arrangement on wheels and moving all the time, can it be done without movement? So it was seen by simply using the tapping key. So this is the new word with you. You can always keep this in your mind. Tapping key is pressing key, that is simply by pressing it, not by screw motion. So when it was pressed, this current will flow through this battery. In this solenoid, it will start behaving like bar magnet, and again the galvanometer showed deflection. And when I released, then also it showed the deflection in the other direction. But the minute it is pressed, means there is no deflection in the galvanometer. So these were the observations. On tapping the key, on pressing the key, or on releasing the key, momentary diffraction was observed in the galvanometer. And when the key is kept pressed or when the key is kept released, both the times there is no deflection in the galvanometer. So it means even if I keep the current passing, then also it has shown no deflection. And further, it was observed that if I put an iron core in this, in place of the air, I put the iron core, then the deflection in the galvanometer increased by large amount. It means if I change the core, here in place of air I have taken iron, then the deflection was increased by large amount. So it means more current, more deflection means more current. Small deflection means small current. No deflection means no current. That should be clear in your mind. So it means again momentary. Even if flux is changing for that particular minute, then it means what is happening? Then you are able to produce the induced EMF and hence the induced current. So these three experiments were done by Faraday and Henry. And on the basis of that, he gave two laws of electromagnetic induction. So you are asked, state Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction. First law with you is, of course, for the laws you have to write as it is, that whenever there is change in magnetic flux linked with the circuit and EMF, and hence a current is induced in the circuit. This is what was the conclusion of all these three experiments. This was taken as the first law with you, that whenever there is change in magnetic flux, by pressing or releasing the key also I am changing the magnetic flux. But minute I kept keeping it pressed or released, I am not changing magnetic flux. So as long as there is change in magnetic flux, EMF and hence the current is induced in the circuit. But if there is no change in the magnetic flux, then of course no EMF or no current. Second law, he said, like we saw this thing that by introducing the iron core, the current increased. So what it was seen, that the magnetic magnitude, if I go with the induced EMF, is directly proportional to rate of change of magnetic flux length with the circuit. That means E is directly proportional to d phi by dt. And if I remove the sign of proportionality, I am getting a constant k. K is a constant and whose value is coming out to be 1. If I say that 1 Weber per second you are bringing the change in the flux, then 1 volt is the EMF. Or I can simply write that induced EMF, that is given by phi 2 minus phi 1 divided by the time t. So this is the formula with you, or simply you can write that EMF, it is equals to d phi by dt. You can write EMF by E or epsilon, that is your choice. So these both the laws you have to keep as it is in your mind. Now what it is, but Faraday was silent about the direction of the EMF or the direction of the induced current, which is very important. That was further added by the scientist Lenz, so which is termed as Lenz law. So both will be helping you to find the things, Faraday's laws and the Lenz law. But he said, Lenz said that the polarity of the induced EMF is such that it tends to produce the oppose in the change in the magnetic flux. It means current is produced in a way which is opposing the change in magnetic flux produced in it. Or you can say that the direction of the induced EMF is so as to oppose its motion. Like if I am bringing the north pole of the magnet near to this solenoid, then on that solenoid again north pole will be formed. It means anti-clockwise current will start flowing. Direction will be anti-clockwise, so that it is opposing, because you know like poles they repel each other, so it will not allow it to come closer. If I start moving it away from the solenoid, then what happens? South pole, it starts behaving like south pole, so that both will attract, means again it is not allowing it to move it away because it will start attracting it. So what Lenz said, that EMF is produced so as to oppose the motion of the magnetic flux or the production of the magnetic flux. So direction is always opposite. So for showing the negative opposite sign, we are using the negative sign. So Faraday's second law, which was about the magnitude of EMF, is further improved, and we are writing it as it is equals to minus of d phi by dt. If in the solenoid I am having n number of turns, then I can write this EMF, it is equals to minus of n times d phi by dt. For n number of terms, EMF, it is equals to minus n d phi by dt. This you need to take care. Of course, if the current is induced, this first coil, like we took two coils, then primary coil we can call, simply it is opposing the change. This you have to learn, that according to Lenz law, the polarity of the induced EMF is such as to oppose the change in magnetic flux. So whatever it is happening, changing, we are making some change, it is opposing that change. So now when you have to use the concept, solve the conceptual questions, this is the final result with us. E, it is equals to minus d phi by dt. This you have to keep it in your mind, and for n number of turns you can always multiply with capacity. Now it means if I want to conclude with the things, then I can write the expression of EMF on the basis of both the laws, that is Faraday law and the Lenz law, that is E, it is equals to minus d phi by dt. So if I write in terms of phi 2 minus phi 1 or otherwise d phi by dt, both the ways it is correct. If I want to write induced current, then induced current is, of course, you know, that is EMF upon resistance. So it can be written as minus d phi by r dt. Of course, it means EMF, we are not, there is nothing doing of the resistance, but when we have to find the current, then we have to divide the EMF with the resistance. And if you are asked with the induced charge, expression for the induced charge, then you know I it is equals to dq by dt. So dq by dt you can equate with minus d phi upon r dt, and you can find the value of dq, which is given by minus d phi upon r. So depending upon what is being asked, current, induced current is the result of the induced production of the induced EMF, and hence you can always find the direction also for the induced current. So these formulas again, bache, you are supposed to note down the things. Now the question comes whether the Lenz's law, it is in conservation, in accordance with the conservation of energy or not. This is again a direct question, but is to understand whether the Lenz's law is in conservation, in the favor of the law of conservation of energy, it is supporting the law of conservation of energy or not. Now, just to revise the things, firstly you should be knowing it means what Lenz's law said. What Lenz's law is saying that when I'm having a bar magnet, I'm moving it. Of course, I know bar magnet can be replaced with another current carrying solenoid. So that is one thing you can always replace. So for convenience, we always show bar magnet because it becomes easy to draw the things, to explain the things. Now, when we are bringing the north pole near this solenoid, then what is happening? The current, according to Lenz's law, is produced so as to oppose the motion. And for opposing the motion, it means it has to repel it. Repel it means we will be having the north pole will be created here. It means current will flow in the anti-clockwise direction. In the galvanometer, the current will show the direction because of the anti-clockwise movement of this. And so it means what we are doing some work. Mechanical work is to be done in bringing it closer because it is opposing, but still I am bringing it. So this work done, what is there, mechanical work done, that is only converted into electrical energy. So this law is in accordance with the conservation of energy. That you can say by this arrangement also, if I start moving this north pole away from it, then south pole is being formed here. It means clockwise current, which again attracts it. I'm willing to move it away, but it is willing to bring it closer. So again I have to do some mechanical work, and that mechanical work will get converted into the electrical energy. So whatever one example you can take, and you can explain that it is happening in accordance with the conservation of energy. So if I say that it is not opposing, then what will happen? If we say that Lenz is not saying correctly that it opposes, it is not opposing, then what will happen? Then it means whatever, if the thing is that you will be further increasing, it means in for north pole it is helping you to bring it here. It means your south pole should be framed, and if your south pole is framed, it means it will help you to come closer. So it means more flux, more current. It means what is happening? It will create energy out of nothing. You are not doing any work, but still energy is being created. So which is not in favor of conservation of energy. So you have to see to it that whenever these experiments are done, these are always in accordance with the conservation of energy. So law is in accordance with the conservation of energy. Very important topic this is. And once these Faraday's laws, Lenz's law is clear, then you most of the questions of back exercise NCERT you will be able to work out. This is one question I have taken to you. And this magnetic field is shown by the equispaced crosses. Crosses means inward, perpendicular to the plane, and inward is the magnetic field. Now you have to find the direction of the induced current in each loop using Lenz's law. You are bringing this loop inside it, inside the magnetic field. So what will be the direction of the induced current? You have to think. When you are bringing it, you are bringing means you are increasing the magnetic flux. So according to Lenz's law, the current has to flow to stop the increasing flux, to oppose the change in flux. So accordingly, you can take the direction will be this coming out to be in the direction of B, C, D. So you should be able to explain the Lenz's law, of course, and then you can work out that what is happening when you are bringing it away, you are decreasing the flux. So the current will be so as to oppose the decrease. Here also, if you are moving it away, you are decreasing the flux, and the current will be so as to oppose the decrease. And then you can mark the direction of the induced current. So Lenz's law should be very clear to you, and then you should be able to explain. And of course, as soon as they are kept stationary, then there will be no induced current, because no change in flux will be there. That also should be clear in your mind. And once this is clear, the direction is clear, then of course you will be comfortable in the coming lectures also, because all the times we have to talk about the direction of the induced EMF and hence the induced current. So that should be in your mind. Keep things up to this, Vita. Thank you, everyone.